Well, I don't know how you feel across all of our campuses after listening to that song, but the way I feel is I want to hit repeat and listen to it all over again. And I think the reason why the song resonates so much with me and probably with you is it grabs onto a longing that is probably in your heart and certainly is in my heart. A longing for a better world, a longing for this Emmanuel who has come to come again and to right all that's wrong in our world. Who among us is not waiting for a miracle? Who among us is not praying for peace on earth? Who among us is not longing for a better day, for a better world? And that's why that song, it kind of taps into that yearning that you have and that I have. But the other reason why I love the song that we all, across all of our campuses, just listen to is because it is so simple and it is so slow. I love the cadence of it. I love the rhythm of it. I love the beat of it. Because slow and simple is something right now that there's not one of the 327 million Americans that are experiencing right now. We're not experiencing slow and simple because we've all stepped on to what I call the December treadmill. You know? All the Emmanuel has come for those who hope and those who wait and those who wonder, but ain't nobody got time for that. Because we got lots of stuff to do right now, don't we? It's the countdown to Christmas. And slow and simple is not our rhythm right now. Our rhythm is run, reindeer, run, right? I mean, we're all a bunch of reindeer running right now. Because we've got decorating to do, and we've got shopping to do, we got wrapping to do, and we've got traveling to do, and we got partying to do. Ain't nobody got time for slow and simple, James Brown.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Now I'm stressed out. My armpits are sweating.
By the way, where is my cupcake?
Oh, I ate it before I got out of your office.
Right.
It was gone.
He owes me a cupcake.
Yeah, this season is oddly designed to not slow down and to be simple. This is the season where we overeat and where we overspend and where we overbook our time, where we just focus, it seems like, on everything but the Christmas season. We overeat and we gain weight, we overspend and we end up with credit card debt so much. We run and run and run to the point of exhaustion because that's what the Bible says we should do, right? No, in fact, it's quite the opposite. And I can just see what you're thinking. Oh, silly pastors. We know what your life is like, working 1-2 days a week, and you just show up at Christmas and it's all easy peasy. Yeah. You don't know what real life is like for us. And that may be true. But what I want to ask you is this. If someone were to take a video crew and put a documentary together on your December, what would your activities, what would your life, what would that say about what you believe this season is really all about? If there was a crew that could tell your story, a producer that could put together a media package that would demonstrate what your December was like, what story would this season tell about you?
Yeah, which leads us to the series we're in right now, and we're so excited about this. It's called Flipping Christmas, and I think if anything needs to be flipped, it's Christmas. If anything needs to be reevaluated, rethought through, it's Christmas. If anything's gone maybe just a bit sideways with all the the overscheduling and the overeating and the overspending and the over whatevers, if anything's gone a little sideways, it's Christmas. And so we want to lean into that today. Is there a way for us to flip Christmas? And maybe you're thinking again, oh, you silly pastors, you can't mess with Christmas. You can't do it. And I would say, why can't we mess with Christmas? If our goal is to make it more meaningful, why can't we mess with it a little bit? If our goal is not to get to December 26th, dog-tired, dazed, and up to our eyeballs in debt, if we have a different goal in mind maybe this year, then what that means is we've got to look at it with fresh eyes, and we've got to be willing to make some changes to make it more meaningful. And that's what we're going to look at today, making it more meaningful, because the choice to do things differently is always there.
Yeah, and the lens that we want to look at this Christmas through is maybe a one that you haven't thought about connected to this particular season. It's an interesting passage in the New Testament about a family and the way they approach their experience with Jesus. And so I want to show this to you because it will readjust and even flip our understanding of what Christmas is truly all about. So if you have a Bible with you, or if you want to grab one in the seat rack in front of you, go ahead and go there to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10, and we're going to start in verse 38. And what we're going to find right away is that there is family strife boiling up between two competing sisters. Anybody have a competitive sister? Okay, it's just me. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, my sisters are very competitive, and so this story resonates with me in a very real way. And so 38 says this. It sets up the story. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. So right away, you're introduced to the first person in this family, but it's not Martha alone who is in this house. She's actually there with her other sister and her brother, her sister Mary and her brother Lazarus. And this is a common experience for Jesus to show up at this house, because from time to time, when he would take breaks from whatever he was doing, traveling, preaching, teaching, whatever, he would stop into this town, call a timeout, and spend some time with this family. Pause, eat together, watch the new series on Netflix, whatever. I'm sure all of that was going on in that moment. And so that's the setup for what we're going to be looking at today. That Jesus and his disciples are house guests of these three siblings. But there is a tension that's emerging that we see in verse 39. Look at it here. Her sister, Martha's sister, Mary, sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. Verse 40. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. Now, I tried to do the voice as best I could to get at what I imagine is trying to be communicated here by Martha. I mean, we have a situation here. And to understand what's going on, we have to move slowly through this text because there's a lot going on in this home. That we have two very different sisters. We have complete opposite personalities here. Mary was the caboose to Martha's locomotive. Mary smelled the roses while Martha picked the roses and put them in a very beautiful vase. That's the difference between these two. Yeah,
that's so good. I think they are complete opposites. One's type B, one's type A, and you all know someone like that probably. Do you know Martha in your life? Do you know someone like that? House guests are coming over. What do? They go into beast mode, right? Can you just picture Martha right now in the kitchen? Can you just try to picture her? Pulling all the cookbooks out, trying to figure out what would be appropriate meal, a banquet for the king of all kings. She's running, she's ragged. Everything is you can just picture flour in the air. You can just picture her scurrying about, kind of like your wife.
You said that.
Yes, I said that. And
this is being recorded.
Okay. Well, maybe we shouldn't record it then. But anyway, I can just picture her right now. Martha setting the table with great precision. Every plate, every piece of silver, everything has to be put in proper order. I can see her pounding the grain and soaking, and then kneading the dough, and then soaking the lentils, and then cutting up the goat cheese and all the fresh fruit into just the perfect fruit platter. And she's just, and while Martha is killing it in the kitchen, what is Mary doing? You heard. Mary is chilling in the living room. You got one killing it in the kitchen. You got the other one chilling in the living room. And again, this is not going well at all. Because Mary is completely oblivious to her swamped sister in the kitchen. And this is not going well. And I want you just to visualize with me Martha's temperature gauge doing that. You can almost just see her. Her face is getting redder and redder and redder, and she pokes her head out of the kitchen and clears her throat. But Mary doesn't even look up. And then she comes completely out of the kitchen and stands there and does, one of these things and gives her best evil eye. And again, Mary's just sitting there at Jesus' feet, just listening to him talk. And then finally, just picture this. Martha comes out of the kitchen with a big honking wooden serving spoon, and she shakes it, veins popping out of her neck. And she says, Jesus, this isn't fair. Tell this worthless, good-for-nothing sister of mine to come and help me in the kitchen. Can you picture this? Because this is what's going on, friends. And I love Jesus' response in verse 41. Look at it. Jesus replied, you're right, Martha. Mary, you're being irresponsible. You're acting like a 25-year-old slacker who lives in his parents' basement rent-free and spends all day in his PJs playing video games. Get off your rear end and do something. Is that what your Bible said?
Some 25-year-olds are getting scared like,
yeah,
this is in the Bible.
This is in the
Bible. This is bad.
Mom was going to kick me out. That's the PPV. That's the Phil Print version. That's what I would have said. Seriously, if I was, that's what I would have said if I were Jesus. But that's not what Jesus said, right? Let's look at the real verse 41 here. But the Lord said to her, look at this, my dear Martha, you are, what's the next word? You are worried. And look at the next word, upset over all these details. In other words, Martha, you're distracted. You're worried, you're upset, which I think is a great way to describe us right now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, this description is our season. I mean, those two words are depicting what we're in right now. Worried and upset, worried and upset, worried and upset. And I think that's what we're dealing with because the stress is off the chart for so many of us as we try to juggle the requirements of this season, trying to keep all the Christmas plates spinning in the air. In fact, I was reading an article this week about this holiday season, and they were doing some research and surveys, and they found that 88% of Americans are stressed out at Christmas, stressed out. 31% of those surveys said that they would describe this season as frantic. And the most shocking thing that I ran across in this article was they said that 45% of Americans would skip Christmas if they could.
Wow.
That's amazing to me, but that's where we are right now. And
we don't want to skip Christmas. We want to
flip it.
We want to flip it. We want to make it better, more meaningful.
And we need to be conscious of this dynamic because it's complicated in the sense that we're rewarded for doing more, better, faster, bigger, perfect. That's how we do this. We, like Martha, are constantly striving to create this thing that we believe that is the ideal in somebody's mind. We're trying to measure up, or we're trying to please, or we're trying to impress, or we're trying to prove ourselves. And we're constantly afraid as we run, wondering what might actually happen if we had the courage to stop running. And we don't. We just keep going. And as a result of this constant flurry of activities, we end up showing Martha-like symptoms in our lives. The same reactions she had toward her sister are the same ones we exhibit when it comes to Christmas time. Again, we end up fussing, and we end up fretting, and we end up frustrated with all of these situations. And I think what's fascinating about this is Jesus' response to it. He doesn't get upset because you'd be like, oh no, now I can't please all these people. Now Jesus is mad at me, right, for not doing this thing right. But that's not his response at all. That's not how he approaches Martha in this moment. I want you to notice the tone that he uses with her, because he doesn't accuse her of getting it wrong, but rather what he does is he defines reality for her. He doesn't reprimand her, but he helps her realize what this moment with him should really be all about. And he does it in verse 42. He says this. He says, there is actually only one thing. You're thinking about many things, Martha, but there's actually just one thing worth being concerned about. And interestingly, your sister Mary has discovered it. And since she has discovered it, it will not be taken away from her.
There's a principle here that we're going to get to in just a few moments. A principle that will make Christmas more meaningful for you, but it's also even bigger than that. I think it's a principle that will make your life better, which is what Jesus is all about. Making you better at life and making your life better. But we're going to get to that in just a moment. But I want just to clarify kind of and add a little bit here, because I think what Jesus is saying is, Martha, 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 Martha. Look at me. Martha, just stop. Look at me, Martha. I'm not here for fine dining. And I'm not here for a glass of Chardonnay. For all of you ex-Baptists, that's a glass of wine. Just to clarify, all right? I'm not here for fine dining and fine wine. Keep in mind, Martha, I just turned water into wine. And I just took a few fish and a few loaves of bread, and I just fed 5,000. I'm not here for a feast. I'm here for fellowship. I'm not here for a 7-course meal. I'm here for conversation. And I'm here for companionship. And I'm here to build some community. I'm not here for a banquet. I'm here for bonding with you. And this is what Martha needed to realize. And friends, if we're going to get Christmas right, and if we're going to get life right, I think we have to realize this very, very same thing. Verse 42 is the key. Look here again. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has, and I want you to highlight this word, discovered it. Mary has discovered it. That word simply means to pick or to choose or to select. And we would argue that that's what life comes down to. It comes down to, of all the good things that are out there, of all the things that are screaming for your attention and screaming for your affection, it's looking over all those things, and it's picking, it's choosing, it's selecting the one thing that is the best thing at that particular moment. It's looking over all of life's menu. And isn't it true that every single year, life's menu just gets more and more and more and more and more on it. It gets more and more and more and more complicated. And what Martha needs to learn, and what Mary showed her, is that what life comes down to is picking and choosing the most important thing. Now let me ask you, was preparing a meal for Jesus and his dudes a good thing? What do you think? Everybody do this, all of our campuses. I'm watching. Yeah, it was a good thing. A meal for Jesus and his dudes, disciples, was a good thing. But was sitting in the living room of Jesus, sitting at his feet, giving him one's undivided attention, was that the better thing? And the answer to that is, you betcha. And that's what life comes down to.
Yeah, I like the way you separate that out, because that's the powerful part of this passage. That's the significant part of this story, is that Jesus is trying to help us make the best decision possible. But what he's trying to do is give us the tools to be able to decide between that which is urgent and that which is ultimate. The thing that is good against the thing that is actually better. And his call to us is to choose the ultimate, choose the better. And what we know is that in order to do that, it takes an incredible amount of grit and guts to pull that off, because that kind of decision making is never, ever easy. It's not easy because there's always something for us to do in the quote unquote kitchen. There's always going to be bills to pay. There's always going to be bosses to please. There's always going to be kids to feed and bodies to exercise and clothes to wash and emails to answer or delete. There's always going to be the next series to watch or the next thing to do. Somebody calling. There's always the next thing. And on top of that, there's always going to be a Martha poking her head out the kitchen, yelling, "What are you doing? Get in here and help me with this." And I don't know about you, but getting at this, the sorting of the urgent and the ultimate is even more difficult when it comes to this holiday season. Because it seems like there's even more and more things to do. Picking the best thing is so difficult. And I think far too often, I end up making the Martha mistake. I end up saying yes to something that's good or yes to many things that are good. And in the process, what I end up doing by default is saying no to the one thing that matters the most.
That's so good. So let's get back to December, all right? Let's not talk about Mary and Martha right now. Let's talk about you and me, all right? Let me ask you, and just play along here. You have anything to do these days? Anything on maybe your to-do list, your Christmas list? Have you, in the last 20 minutes that we've been talking, have you been tuned out because of things that you've got to do today and tomorrow and the next day and between now and Christmas? Many of you are looking very guilty, by the way, right now. I just want you to think about that. What do you have to do between now and Christmas? What does your list look like? Well, maybe you would respond to that by saying, well, Pastor Phil, I don't really have anything to do. I just got buying a tree, putting up lights, redecorating the entire house, sending out Christmas cards to everyone on the planet, finding Christmas presents for 25 people who already have everything imaginable, wrapping those gifts, attending 5 holiday parties, baking cookies, making fudge, and a few dozen other things. That's all I've got. What do you got? Yeah. And what I want to do right now is I want us all just to hit pause, and I want all of us just to take a deep breath and let it out. Because we have a gift for you today. It's actually a word. And it's just one word. And it's this word right here. It's the word choose. Choose. Actually, this is not James and I, this is not our gift to you. This is actually God's gift to you. When God made male and God made female in his image, he gave you a gift. He gave you the gift of choice. He gave you freedom of choice. He gave you free will. With all the myriad of life's menu options, with all of the things that are screaming and vying for your attention, God gave you a gift that we so rarely use. It's the gift of choice. It's the gift of making a decision. And I think if I had to boil this whole passage down in Luke chapter 10 to 2 words, it would be these 2 words: choose wisely. Crossroads Church, Marthas of the world, choose wisely, because life comes down to the decisions that we make. Life comes down to looking through all of life's menu and choosing, selecting, picking that which not is urgent, but that which is ultimate. That which is not good, but that which is better or best. And that's what life comes down to. You see, you can choose the living room, or you can choose the kitchen. You can choose to sit, or you can choose to sprint. You can choose intimacy, or you can choose busyness. You can choose. You can choose the manger, or you can choose them all. You can choose. You can choose focused, or you can choose frantic or frenzied. But the only thing we can't choose is all the above. I'll say that again. The only thing that you can't do and the only thing that I can't do is we can't choose all the above, because you can't be in the kitchen and the living room at the same time. You can't do it. You can't do it.
And I think that was Martha's mistake in this, is that what she was trying to do was to do it all. And I believe that in the process of trying to do that, her intentions were pure. That I believe that she wanted, to the best of her ability, design and create and execute the most wonderful meal for Jesus. And then, at some point, try to spend some time with him as well. But the lesson that she teaches us is that she couldn't. And Jesus pointed that out to her. That through all of the fussing and fretting and frustration in that moment, he says to her, if you keep going in this way, you're going to miss the meaning of what I'm doing here, of why I'm here, and what I want to do for you. All this running, all this stress is not going to get you where you want to be, which is with me. And so he calls her to a better way. He calls her to flip the script on how she approaches her life. And that's what Jesus is calling us to do in this season as well, to flip that script, to make this season more meaningful by recognizing the true meaning of this season.
And by recognizing, too, that we have limits. Do you know that? That we human beings have limits. And that's what we need to grab onto if we're going to flip this script, as James is saying.
Yeah, and so we want to give you an actual gift to help you choose well this Christmas. We want to give you a gift. It's a series of permissions. We are executing our pastoral privilege and our pastoral power.
Yes, we are.
To release you to do or not do a few things this holiday season, because we can do that.
These are the best gifts. I know you're going to think, well, I'd rather have a Lexus or whatever, but trust me on this.
No, this is what you really want.
These three gifts that we're going to give you are the gifts that you need, and they're the gifts that we need. So take them for what they are.
All right, so permission granted, number one. You have permission not to try to please everyone this Christmas.
Wow. I want you to think about that person that you always try to please, that is unpleasable. And what we're saying, the pastoral power right here,
so much power.
We're giving you permission not even to try to please that person.
Not even.
Not even.
Not even a little bit.
And when they get really mad at you, just say, well, my pastor, James Brown, said I don't have to please you.
And if they have a problem with that,
you're welcome.
You can email me at phil@crossroadschurch.cc. It'll get right to me.
No, it won't.
So that's the first one. You don't have to try to please everybody. Now, the second one is something that you will need to do, but we give you permission to set limits, and ultimately say no to the things outside of those limits. And inevitably, what's going to happen is that you are going to disappoint some people, and we give you permission to disappoint them.
Yeah, we do. In fact, can we, on the count of three, at all of our campuses participating, just say the word no out loud?
Ooh.
Because some of you have never said this word before. This is a word that is foreign to you. And so on the count of three, I want everybody participating, all of our campuses, I'm listening. 1, 2, 3. No.
That was painful for a few
Merry
people.
Christmas. Merry Christmas. Some of you need to just get in the practice of saying that word over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's good. And here's our last gift. Our last gift is
Don't you love these gifts?
You don't even have to unwrap these. These
No.
are beautiful. The last gift is this. We give you permission not to get everything done. Not to get everything done. Now, when Phil put that slide up just a second ago, some of you were writing in the message notes furiously like, yeah, I forgot. I need to do that one too, this one and this one. Just take that list and just rip it in half. You don't even have to do the bottom half. Just do the top half. Not even the bottom. You don't have to touch it. Don't have to. I mean, there's so much stuff to do. There's so much stuff to do. And I'm just saying you don't have to do it all. Get done what you can. Get done what you can. The house doesn't have to be perfect. The meal doesn't have to be perfect. The presents don't have to be wrapped exactly perfect. Get done what you can, and then just let the rest of it go. Yeah. Because it won't get done, and that is going to be okay.
Now, the reason why all this matters, and I'll just put our cards on the table here and tell you, is because our greatest fear is that you're going to get to December 26th without experiencing a single living room moment with Jesus, with the one who left heaven and came to earth for you. That you're going to spend so much time in the kitchen that Christmas is going to blow right past you, and you're going to look back and go, oh, whoops, and be nothing but dog-tired and dazed and up to your eyeballs in debt. And friends, we don't want that for you. And that's why we give you permission. We give you permission to not try to please everybody. We give you permission to set limits and say no. We give you permission just to not try to get everything done, so that you can create a moment or moments to sit like Mary did in a quiet place and be with the one who came to be with you. And just to even facilitate that a little bit, we have created like a little countdown to Christmas, a 10-day countdown to Christmas. It's in your program under the message notes section. And all we're asking you to do, starting Monday, is to spend 10 minutes a day for 10 days, kind of creating a living room moment where you just sit and for 10 minutes you read the passages in the Bible and you just push pause and you reflect on them. And maybe as God speaks to you or you want to say something to God, you just write it down somewhere. But friends, that's what we want for you. And I know that's what Jesus wants with you. He wants to be with you. So be bold. Be courageous. Be discerning. Be wise. And do what Mary did. Choose the better thing. Don't let anything and don't let anyone but Jesus distract you. Flip Christmas. Flip Christmas. I believe you'll be glad that you did. Any questions? All right, let's pray. God, I pray right now for the Crossroads family. And that includes James and that includes me. God, that you would give us discernment as we approach the next couple of weeks. God, when we find ourselves in the kitchen too long, would you just tap us on the shoulders and would you remind us to move into the living room and to spend some time with you? I pray, God, that we would exercise this gift of choice that you've given us well. Give us the courage, give us the grit and the determination, God, to say no to those things that we need to say no to, those urgent things, so that we can focus on the ultimate, which is being with you. Thank you for coming to earth to be with us. And God, I pray that this would be just a sacred and holy season for us, that we would rise above the craziness. And God, like Mary, we would spend time with you. So I pray your blessing upon the Crossroads family as we try to navigate this all. And we love you and we praise you. We ask for all this in Jesus' name right now. Amen. Thanks, everybody.